Welcome to today's webinar. Thank you everybody for registering and logging in. This is webinar today is on the Department of Education's SBIR program, the Small Business Innovation Research Program. Today's guest is going to be Ed Metz, who runs the Department of Education program. But first, a couple minutes overview about CIT. I'm Robert Brook. I'm the Director of Federal Funding Programs here at the Center for Innovative Technology, or CIT. Our mission at CIT, we're a nonprofit. Our goal is to accelerate the next generation of technology and technology companies across the Commonwealth of Virginia through commercialization, capital formation, and market development. Several key funding programs and initiatives that we run here that focus primarily on the early stage R&D community and mostly in small tech firms. They include a robust SBIR and STTR support program that I manage, and investment funds for high growth potential companies via the Gap Fund and the Virginia Founders Fund, or VFF, and a grant funding program for technology companies and university researchers here in Virginia via the Commonwealth Research Commercialization Fund, or CRCF. I'm not going to talk about those last two. I'm going to talk a little bit, just one more detailed slide about our SBIR support program. But if you have any information requests for those, send me an email, go to our website. I'll have that listed here in a second. Just a basic high level here, we've got our investment funds, typically 50 to 100K early stage seed investment for those high growth potential companies that are seeking additional venture capital. So not every company is a venturable company in the traditional sense. So, but if you're interested in finding more about that, I'm happy to direct you to somebody who can speak with you directly about our funds. The Commonwealth Research Commercialization Fund, or CRCF, is an annual grant solicitation. It typically closes in late January, early February. There is a letter of intent deadline, typically by the end of the calendar year, and there's key technology sectors that you have to focus on and be eligible for. There's other eligibility requirements, but there's several funds within that, including an SBIR and STTR matching grant program that does allow for up to $75,000 matching grants for companies. So take a look at that if you have any interest in that. Again, unless you've put your letter of intent in this year, you'll have to wait till next year, but there's certainly we'll line everybody up who's on this webinar to receive future communications about those opportunities. Our federal funding assistance program, again, that I manage, works with over 300 companies per year. Virginia does pretty well in SBIR. We're over $140 million received across the Commonwealth in 2018. We have a robust program that includes online training, such as today's webinar. We have full-day workshops, multi-day workshops, conferences. We have a small grant fund that we can provide to eligible companies here in Virginia that can help you hire one of those professional outside SBIR consultants that we can refer you to for both phase 1 and phase 2 needs. There are some prerequisites and requirements for that, so talk to me about that. There's an application process, so let me know if you have any interest in that. Again, the CRCF matching grant program, and we have over 40 pre-recorded webinars that mostly focus on SBIR initiatives, various series on DoD, NSF, the National Institutes of Health, and several other ones. And we're populating today's webinar in that series as well. So any questions, please contact me. You can go to our website to find out more at the URL listed there below. And you're happy to send you the links to our pre-recorded webinars if you need those. So any questions, this is my contact information. I'd be happy to chat with you for updates on our events. We have events typically across the Commonwealth, at least a 1 or 2 day workshop, at least once a quarter, often more, and we'll be planning other sessions and webinars throughout the year. So take a look at that and you can find out more information about our training opportunities. Today, as I mentioned to you, Ed Metz is going to speak about the Department of Education's SBIR program. Ed's been with education now, SBIR program, for 15 years. So he's well versed in understanding the goals of their program. He's going to talk a little about the mission, some basic processes that they undertake, a little bit of information about the current solicitation, some of the key sector areas they're going to talk about, funding amounts, A little bit about commercialization, kind of that's the key to SBIR at all the agencies is what's your plan for commercialization. A little bit about what that might mean at education, things that they've funded, looking at other projects, where to go with that, and how to engage with them during the times that they don't have a solicitation open due to the federal acquisition rules. He can not talk specifically about the current solicitation in detail about specific topics, and because that's provides an unfair advantage. So, but there are other agencies as well that have Department of Education interests. National Science Foundation has levels of interest. National Institutes of Health can provide, depending on what you're developing for health-related initiatives. So there are other programs, and perhaps you can talk about some of that as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open up Ed's presentation. And Ed is remote, but not at a computer today, so he's going to be telling me to kind of forward the slide. So please bear with us. But we're going to take probably going to be about 20 minutes or so here. So with that, Ed, please take it away. Thank you.
All right. Hey, thanks, Robert. I think we've known each other probably about the whole time, right? 15 years.
Yeah, I've been here almost a little over 18 now. So I was.
Yeah. So I think when I started, I came over to CIT. And have been over there many times for your events, and look forward to doing that in person next time. But you know, thanks for everybody coming out today. Robert said there's about 30 of you, and I looked at the names, and I know a few companies, but not too many more. So hopefully, what I'm saying is not repetitive from times we've talked before. But anyway. There are 7 slides, so I guess 6 times. I'll just ask Robert to advance to the next slide. So as Robert noted, I have led the Department of Education's SBIR program for 15 years. I'm housed at the Institute of Education Sciences, which is the research arm of the department. IES has the SBIR program. They also offer other research grants programs. So if you're in the education technology space, which I assume you are based on the fact that you're here now, definitely check out ies.ed.gov, funding opportunities. You'll see that there's many opportunities across different topic areas. Those are different than SBIR. Those are grant programs, and the call for proposals for those will be in the summer months. So that's a good tip for you. But anyway, today's presentation is titled A Government Funding Program Every Ed Tech Developer Should Know About. You know, it might not be the right program for you, but you definitely want to know about it, given that the awards are made to for-profit developers. The funding is non-dilutive, which means if the Department of Education or the National Science Foundation or any other agency gives you an award for, say, $1 million or $1.1 million, then the government doesn't own any stake in your company. It's all yours. So there's no better award to get than this one, because you keep all the funding. And the idea, though, of course, and you can go to the next slide now, Robert, thank you. The idea is that through our program, you're going to be creating education technology products that are going to be used in wide scale in schools to address pressing needs, including student learning, supporting teachers, supporting administrators in education and special education, from any age level, from, you know, pre-K to adult education. So that's kind of an overview. I'm going to go back on script now and tell you that our program offers only one annual solicitation at the Department of Education. And we offer Phase 1 awards and Phase 2 awards. And the awards go to for-profit firms for the research and development of research-based and commercially viable ed tech products once again, for students, teachers, or administrators in education and special education. I underline two terms there: research-based. Everything to this program has to have very solid research planning. As noted in our solicitation, the teams need to have an expert education researcher on board to lead pilot studies during the project. But even more than that, you got to bring research to your proposal in the form of prior research if there's an existing product that you're building on, or if not, you want to still do some concept testing of your idea and include that research in your proposal so that the reviewers see the idea has been vetted before by real students and real teachers. And then commercially viable, as Robert noted, SBIR is all about you commercializing your technology that you develop through the program. And in terms of commercialization in education, that means wide-scale distribution to as many students and schools as possible, while also sustaining your technology through revenue that you generate. So that's crucial that you prove in the proposal that you have valid pathways to wide-scale distribution and sustainability. The proof is basically included in the letters that you'll include in your proposal to say from an outside stakeholder that this company has a plan and we are partnering with them to make that plan a reality once the R&D is complete. Next slide, please. Thank you. So here's some nuts and bolts for you. We've got a $10 million annual budget, and that is split between our Phase 1 awards. And this year we anticipate making 20 Phase 1 awards for
Ed? Great. All right. Okay, seems we've lost Ed. Ed, I can't hear you now.
include the research and development of emerging technologies. So that's a pretty wide bucket, emerging technologies that can be used in classroom settings. R&D of products to modernize assessment. R&D of products to inform decision-making by teachers and administrators, including technologies that help administrators evaluate the products that are being used in their school. The fourth priority is research and development of technologies that ready existing research-based interventions for use at scale. That means that a lot of research is out there, a lot of development has occurred, but it's very hard to get that into classrooms. So we have a new topic to help researchers add that final piece to the puzzle to get that thing into as many schools as possible so that they can have the desired impact. And then lastly, we have a fifth category that is to lost you. So
Yeah,
Robert, are you there?
Yeah, we lost you for about 3 minutes. There was some delay. I don't know what. No button was pushed on this end. So I caught
weird.
you. Basically, I got you right when you was talking about number 2 here. So and a few things on the prior slide, perhaps just the overview of the program, the deadline. You're talking about the phase 1 and phase 2 split with the money, and then it kind of cut out. So I don't know if there's any backup info, and then maybe reinitiate the talk with the priority areas. But we got the last 4 or 5 you guys did there.
Cool. We can blame AT&T. If you know someone at AT&T, send them a complaint email, or I don't know what is it? Is this like a whatever webinar? But anyway, I have been talking the whole time. I was asking if anybody was listening, but there was no reply, so I was like, I better just plow ahead. That being said, the information, I was sort of regurgitating what was on the slides. I did say that our priority areas are brand new this year. Those are the 5 new priority areas, but if you're familiar with our program, whatever you sent in the last 10 years to any of our priorities could still be, you could still send it in this year. I just created new priorities this year to be more specific about some of the pressing needs that we see in education. And the goal, once again, is for you guys to develop the products that are going to change education and make education, what it needs to be. Technology, with technology sort of filling a gap and reaching its potential in doing so.
So Ed, are these priority areas, are these basically the topic areas, or is this like the NSF where these are the topic areas you create these are priority areas, you create a topic that fits one of these, or are there more detail that you provide in this solicitation?
Yeah, this solicitation has somewhat exhaustive information. I say that laughingly, tongue in cheek. You want to dive into that solicitation immediately if you haven't already.
So these 5 are not. Are there more specific topics written, or this is pretty much these 5 areas are kind of the topic areas?
Yeah, those are the areas. Those pretty much allow for just about anything that would have ever fit in our proposal. If you're developing something for pre-K through adult education, you can apply through these topics. The first one is emerging technologies, which is probably the catch-all for if you're sort of, doing something that's general in nature in education. You can argue that it's an emerging technology pretty easily, unless you're developing a better pencil that handheld pencil. That's probably not an emerging technology. But if it's technology driven, I'm sure you're doing something innovative and it would fit in that first category. But if you're doing assessment, an assessment engine, if you're doing a tool for decision making or teacher efficiency, or you're doing special education, you could fit it in these probably, hopefully.
Okay.
So, NSF areas, I'm obviously familiar. They have their own priorities, which I think they've actually just revised. So you'd want to check out their new program area as well. So I'm getting the MEDX slide. It's a document that I just sent to Robert to distribute to all of you. As I noted, you really need to probably consider applying to a lot of different programs to secure funding, whether SBIR or traditional research programs. And I compiled this list for you, which has some good info about all the different funding opportunities that I could figure out. And it's all in one place now for you to take a look at. So that's
We'll
gonna
set,
be
we'll,
sent around.
we'll send this out to everybody, and I'll send the presentations as well, both CIT and your presentation, along with this.
Great. Okay. And then the next slide, slide number 6, is an advertisement for the annual Ed Games Expo event, which just occurred 2 weeks ago at the Kennedy Center in DC and at several locations around DC. The expo is a showcase for the learning games and the technologies that have been developed through the programs that I lead and across more than 30 different programs in the government. So everybody who's gotten an award to develop a learning technology is invited to participate at this event to show show the finished product of what they created with the government's funding. I highly recommend you guys coming out. If you haven't been funded before, you can talk to all the companies about how they got funded. You can ask some questions about how what it took to get funded, what kinds of teams they built to get funded. You can also meet all of the government program representatives across 30 different programs at the office hours segment, which we hold the day after the expo. So all the government reps are actually sitting at tables, and you can go around and meet with them. And that's very important, obviously, for getting critical information. And then we have a host of other activities around the Ed Games Expo. We're aiming to make this a South by Southwest style week of education innovation, where we have a variety of sessions of importance to the field of education technology. So the next one of these will be later in 2020 or early 2021. Don't know the date yet, but keep an eye out for that. Lastly, slide number 7, my info is there. If you're going to be applying to this program, definitely spend time on our website. It lists all the awards that the program has made. The last 10 years are listed there, abstracts from every project. You can get a great feel about the types of companies that have won the awards. You can get a feel for what research designs and commercialization plans they were proposing. Robert asked me to tell you about what types of companies traditionally are funded by this program. Anywhere from small startups to more established ed tech companies with 10 years under their belt, and 30 or 40 employees is common. Less common is the 300 or 400 person shops. We don't probably make too many awards to those companies, but nonetheless, I'm sure we do. The website also has success stories, which are very useful for you in understanding what our program is looking for. As Robert noted, I'm under a restriction right now. I can't receive questions or emails from you guys with specific questions about your approach. If it's outside of the RFP season, I can then give you my best feedback on what you're doing and very specific questions about your research designs. But right now, I'm not able to do that. But nonetheless, you can still email your questions in to Tracy Perry. Her name and email are listed in the solicitation, and Tracy will post responses to your questions on the website for everybody to see. I wouldn't ask for feedback on your proposal because they won't give you feedback on that. But if you have like a process question or a nuts and bolts question that's not clear in the solicitation, there will be guidance provided to you. So yeah, the next step for you, if you're thinking about applying, is to sit down with that 110-page document and get to be best friends with it. And then obviously start writing your proposal. The proposal is due March 3rd. And then our awards will be made by June 3rd, within 90 days, and the projects begin on June 7th. $200,000 for 8 months for phase one. Once again, we'll make about 20 awards. And then a year from now, the phase one winners will apply for phase two for the other $900,000 for the full scale development. Included in that is, once again, plans for you to commercialize the technologies to get it in front of as many students and teachers and to sustain it through revenue. So I'll stop there. I sort of just plowed through. Yeah. Do you have a question for me?
I've got someone asked about, is there a guide for proposal structure? I guess within the solicitation, is there sort of a general sense, how many, is it 20 page or 15 page technical plan, right?
Yeah. I mean, our solicitation really, once again, is overly explicit in terms of everything that you need to do. So my advice is to, once again, sit down, print that thing out, sit down with it. It's a 15 pager, but there's 7 or 8 appendices that will add on to the back end of your proposal. And sometimes, and the format of your proposal should just 100% follow the exact sections in that RFP. So if you were writing your RFP, you could basically cut and paste the technical narrative sections, throw it into your proposal, and just write your own text and content
Right.
under each section. Yep.
Right. So you can kind of
don't come up with your own format, because that will be a big problem for you.
So they kind of just look at their structure. They give you the format, and included in that is a commercialization request. We talked about that earlier. So it's 15 page technical, or is that the full proposal?
Well, that's the technical. So your intro, your sort of information on your company and other stuff will take the first 2 or 3 pages. Then you do your 15 page narrative, and then you add on those appendices, and those could add 50 or 60 pages of of whatever. You'll see when you get there. So yeah, proposals usually 50, 60 pages, but the 15 pages is the core component.
Regarding letters of support or commercialization, I know some agencies have limits on how many letters you can attach. Is there limits on support letters from to validate commercial market need and interest?
Yeah, that's once again, look at Appendix I. It will tell you there's a maximum of 3 letters. It will tell you that they can't be more than 1 page in duration. And there's some other guidance for you in the RFP that you definitely want to take a look at about what will comprise of a good letter, of a good high quality letter versus one that is useless.
Right. Yeah, letters from your congressman don't help.
That would be good if you had a congressman who wrote that they were going to get it into every school in their district. That would probably be pretty good. But
the rah-rah letters are, of course, they want more people in their jurisdiction to get funding. So there has to be something valid. What are, when you talk about the goal is to get this stuff in the hands of students and educators and teachers. So getting letters from a school system, specific schools, other companies that sell into these schools, I guess those are all. Is there any guidance on people that never done this before? Well, who am I getting these letters from? The administrator, a teacher? What is there a breadth of these things that typically you see people submitting?
Well, yeah, I mean you can read the Appendix I, and it does provide guidance on the types of letters you want to get, and you can look at our success stories.
Okay.
For what pathways those companies that were successful used to get to a point of wide scale distribution and sustainability. And you can talk to Robert, everybody, about what SBIR, what is needed for successful commercialization. Robert is there for you to brainstorm about that, because I'm sort of off the radar at this point.
Right. So, and someone asked, you mentioned a good getting on your team a qualified education researcher. Is there ways you guys suggest finding these people? Is there a list? Is there a website? Is there because that's obviously a qualified PI, basically, right? Primary investigator, an education researcher. Do you guys have a matchmaking systems? Or are there things you can suggest people look at? Is there if they're looking for that expert, education researcher expert?
That's something you'd want to talk to Robert or someone else at this point who has knowledge of that question.
Okay. Yeah, because I
mean,
we
you
don't
could read
really
our RFP,
we don't
and it says a PhD level education researcher in the whatever section that is. It's like, who do you need on your team? You need a PhD level education researcher. There's no matchmaker that on our website.
That's fair. Yeah, we don't do a matchmaking thing either. That's a lot. It's a big ask, and it's constantly going out of date. So we suggest you can look at prior award topics if you're looking for people in the industry. Tenured professors who do these sorts of things in education could be good folks to talk to, but there's no one specific kind of person they're looking for. But that's the $1,000,000 question to getting the right person on the team.
Well, it does say a PhD level education researcher, I think is what it says in the RFP.
Yeah.
So that they're that's a good guidance there.
Right. And does that researcher, are you meaning, is that, so when you say that you have a qualified education researcher on the team, is that generally the PI or someone else? It could be one or the other. It could be the PI,
there's
right?
you have a as noted in the RFP, which I keep saying, sorry about that.
Right.
You have a team. So the principal investigator is part of the team and then can play different roles in the team, which might include being the lead engineer and coder or developer. It could include someone who's the education researcher. It could be the business person, but it's different for every project.
So the PI obviously needs to always be full-time on an SBIR at the company at time of the award, 50% or more, 51% or more full-time employed at the company at time of the award. Does that researcher, if there's a PhD, could they be a consultant on the project? Could they be an outsource? Do they have to be full-time at the company is the question.
Well, as noted in the RFP, as you just stated, the eligibility rules for the principal investigator is 51% with the company. The rules in the RFP for all the SBIR programs are that in phase one you have to spend 2/3 in-house and you can spend 1/3 out of the house, and however you split up that pie is up to you, so long as the principal investigators 51% with the firm.
Right. So there has to be a qualified PI that would be able to manage a project scientifically and technically and have the credentials at some level. Doesn't have to be a PhD to manage the project. But if that's the case, then they're not the PhD level researcher, but they can manage a project generally speaking. They would need to then get another probably PhD level researcher on the team, and that could be you could outsource part of that. There's probably a minimum level they want to be involved. But again, we would direct you to the solicitation. But putting that right team together, that as Ed mentioned, they want you to include a PhD level education researcher, which doesn't somewhere on the team. So that's there's been several questions about that, Ed, on here. So that's why I'm trying to clarify it. And the PI requirements are a little different. If that person is the PI, they have to be full-time at the company. It could be a separate person if you want to. You can outsource up to 1/3, 30% of the project outside the company, and that could be that person as well. So, but that would be a key person. You'd have to get them to commit up front via some sort of letter, commitment letter to be part of the project when it's awarded. So that's something you might want to. You have to look at the details on that.
Yeah, that's not part of the. There's no commitment letter. It's more you have to have everybody sign a authorization and Appendix B.
Yeah.
So don't include any letters that are not.
Yes, I meant
restricted.
they're right, but that would be at the time of the award. They would have to be as such. Yep. So yeah, SBIRs are always at time of award, not for the last. They don't have to be on the team at the application date. They have to be willing to be a part of the team on the award date. So to accept the award. So that's basic at all agencies. All right. Well, I think that answers most of the questions that were coming through. A lot about that, and so and I guess any last tidbits we have. My thought is always focusing on putting that team together, understanding the mission, as Ed said, read the solicitation because there's a lot of details. Getting those formats together. Someone was asking about the amounts of money. You said there's $10 million a year. How many phase one winners are there typically? And he said there's about 50% go on to win phase two. So at 900,000 times 10, that's almost, how does that work out? The numbers typically.
Well, yeah, no, that was this year. We have more phase one, so you don't. Last year, the last couple of years, we've given out about 12 or 15 phase ones. We've had 6 or 7 phase twos, and that's worked out to, I think it was like 8 or 9 million a year. Last year, our budget increased a little bit. So this year I think we're doing more phase ones potentially, in that affects then how many phase twos. So I think there's a plan for like 6 or 7 phase twos, and then it adds up to 10 million or so.
Right. Okay. Good. Someone was doing math there. I wasn't. Okay.
Okay. Well, yeah.
All right.
Once again, that document that Robert will send out has the list of about 20 programs. You can reach out to all those program officers for more information, and then once once it's summer again for me, I'm usually available to chat with each of you individually, and I look forward to doing that.
Yep.
Obviously, I wish you luck if you're applying this year.
Great.
You can also continue talking to Robert after I hang up in case there's any last minute questions. How does that sound?
Yeah, and you can send me an email or give me a call. I'm gonna end the webinar here, so it stops recording. But we'll as Ed said, we always recommend during the periods of opportunity to speak with them in person, via phone, via email, when they're allowed to. Some agencies let you talk up until the day it's due. Some agencies that are more contract-based oriented in how they approach things, they don't want to give unfair advantage to folks by answering questions that late in the game without making that public to everybody else. So you have to be careful what you ask in those situations. DoD, lets you send questions via CITUS. The NSF and NIH they don't buy anything from you, so they let you talk to them until the day the proposal's due. But so keep that in mind, that the agencies are all on different bandwidths on this, on these communications. But definitely, it always helps to understand their specific needs or missions. And as Ed pointed out, other programs that are there. SBIR is not the only funding source. These people typically are managing and have access and knowledge to other programs and resources that might be more appropriate, or different sort of at the level you are. If you've already done most of the research and you're just trying to get money to market, that's not SBIR. So you have to kind of figure out, make sure you're doing a fit with innovation research, and that's usually those conversations can really be beneficial during, as Ed mentions, when you can speak with him in person at some point. The agencies also run the SBIR road tours typically throughout the year, a couple times a year, where they actually get on buses and go town to town. They're going to be doing one on the East Coast here sometime. We're going to be announcing that here, but we'll keep in touch with everybody on things. And with that, I thank everybody, and we will send these emails out, these presentations out to everybody, so you have all of the contact information.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ed. Appreciate it.